think we are coming early.
Yes.
Yeah. Are we live, right?
Yes, we
All
are.
right.
All right. You want to start with a quote?
Well, I want to say hi to everybody
Okay.
first.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
how I do it, the community.
Absolutely.
So, hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics and Money. Excited to be with you, as always, along with Elizabeth
Note
here.
the name change.
Oh, yeah. You guys are aware of it, right? Yeah, they are. So, anyway, how about we start with the quote, then we'll dive
Okay.
into our topic.
So, Kamal Hassan once said, when you don't take a stand against corruption, you tacitly support it.
Wow. Yeah, but our country, we don't have corruption here. We are the best
no, of course
country in
not.
the world.
No one has corruption,
Yeah, we
especially
don't.
not
Not here in the US.
USAID,
Yeah.
AID,
Oh, or a FEMA or
FEMA for sure.
yeah,
no
corruption
anywhere.
in America.
No
So
way.
whomever is saying it's they're just lying
No,
about
there.
it.
You know
No.
what? Because
Ask
they're all
American people. I mean, they'll tell you.
they'll tell you they
Wow.
absolutely
Yeah.
trust the government in
The
every
great
single
system
way.
we have.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, all joking aside,
Obviously, no, we're joking.
let's get to the heart of it, because it's not only disturbing,
Mhm.
it has been disturbing, but now things coming to the surface. And this is what about the truth, guys. Truth will always come at the end.
Yes.
That's exactly it. Just now, I just don't know where to start. For the
Yes.
average citizen who is not, let's say hypothetically, he or she is not educated,
Right.
illiterate.
Right.
They just they don't have an understanding of what's going on. I feel sorry for them because they don't know, and they wonder why they're spending more than 40 hours to make ends meet,
Yeah.
and they still come short.
Yes. So I think this all, even Trump becoming president, is a down the line, basically like it's a down the line of the fact that Americans don't trust their government, don't trust their media. The trust in media has absolutely plummeted. Trust in hospitals and doctors have absolutely plummeted since the pandemic. So trust in our institutions have crumbled. But the thing that, okay, I want to put it in context here. So when Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential election.
He's still alive?
I think so. I don't know.
I'm just wondering. I'm really seriously. I'm wondering.
But so he dropped out, right? Before he dropped out, the White House was saying, no, he's fine, guys. He's totally cognitively there. He's fine. He can do another term. No problem, no problem, no problem. Until the problem became so obvious that they couldn't hide it anymore. And even Democrats were calling him out and saying, this is not a fit man for president. But they did it when there wasn't an opportunity to change candidates, really, because Kamala Harris came in because, number one, they didn't really have anybody else. And number two, they did it so late in the game that they really didn't have a chance to really find another candidate. But they stuck with the narrative for so long that when it finally reached the end where they couldn't stick with it anymore, they had to give it up at a really bad time for them. So we know the lies. American people are very, very used to lies and lies and lies and lies, right? Well, come in USAID.
That is correct. And that's what we're going to be really delving deeper into, with some charts, with some clips, with some whatever. You're going to guys hear stuff, because here is the disturbing aspects of it, is that it's our tax dollars, our tax money. It's our money. Of course, I have to know where my money is spent on, you know. And that's, you ask me, I worked in Washington. I'm not hiding this, but did I ever trust the government? No, I didn't. If there were some incidents where I had to, and I never disclose, I never talk about my private life and all that, and I'm going to share this on the air with the community. There were some incidents where I had to push back.
Against
inside the work. No.
Oh.
Work back then, when certain policies will be entering into effect, that I said, no, this is not right, But again, you can only push so much because of when you have a vice president showing up at your office unexpectedly, you get the idea. So, but this is where the problem is that our tax dollars is being wasted. And now what DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency headed by Elon Musk. Now they are uncovering. I mean, don't get me wrong. Elon Musk is not an angel.
Oh, for sure.
Let's just put that on the table.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is the #1 defense contractor. And for the satellites he sent for that so-called Starlink, Starlinks, if you only know what's also in that payload when that Falcon goes up,
right?
You know what's in it? Those are the satellites for the NRO, the National Recon Office.
Yeah.
What is that for? To keep an eye on everybody.
Absolutely.
Of course, the director of that office saying, "Oh, this is to track the terrorists and extremists and all that stuff." Come on,
I know.
We heard this before.
Right.
You can't trust the government.
It's all the floofy story.
Yeah.
So, USAID is like a super clever acronym because they're not actually an aid organization.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's. I love these acronyms because so we're doing a show on manufacturing that we're doing a scripted for.
Yeah.
And it's like the CHIPS Act, and it was like every word was like it's just, this doesn't make sense. Like these words put together so you can have this acronym.
Yeah.
But the USAID department is not actually, it's not actually an aid department. Oh my God, I cannot speak today. But it's the Agency for International Development.
Yeah.
That is a very different thing from it being solely an organization that's dedicated to making sure the hungry around the world get food or medical care. So not that the organization does not do that, because it does do some of that.
I was aware of some in Africa.
Absolutely. However, a lot is coming out about the other parts of that. So I don't think, and we're not arguing for there should be no USAID around the country. And I don't mean USAID, the organization. I mean, there should be aid,
the help
around the globe, right?
Yeah.
But USAID has other parts of it, and those are the parts that are now in question.
Yeah. Well, that's why you start to question, for example, I'm going to give you guys, even Canada now, by the way, to our viewers from Canada, hairless apes. I know you're from Canada. You think, you know what Canada just did?
What?
They shut down the database for the aid office or something. They have in their government similar to US.
Yeah.
The data gets shut down.
Wow.
By order of dictator Trudeau. Makes you just wonder, what does Canada have to hide? But that's beside the point. Where we think about, and my mind race immediately to what took place in the 1990s. I don't know if you remember. Why you?
I was alive in the 90s. Thank you.
I was
newly in the world, but I was there.
Yeah, the Haiti, the problem we had in Haiti. What is at that time Clinton did? Wanted to allocate funding. And that was the role at the beginning of the so-called Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
This is what now has been discovered in this USAID, that $83 million out of our tax dollars been funneled into the Clinton Foundation. As a matter of fact, I even found out
they don't need more money.
Yeah.
Guys.
And I found, well, especially when his daughter ended up paying for the wedding for $3 million. I wish I had that kind of money.
Yeah, I wish
I'll pay for your wedding. I'll tell your
great.
husband to take a back seat. I'll take care of the finances of it. $3 million was spent on that wedding. She ended up buying, and again, I'm not pointing at her, whatever. I'm just pointing the facts. Right. It's a public information now. Ended up buying property for $10 million. Where that money came from?
No, that's a great question.
So it's our money. So what I will request is a refund.
Yes, I like refunds, definitely.
And my other thing that I deal with punishment for corruption. I'm not going to say it here.
Oh, yes.
You all know what it is. You all know what it is. Because that's what it is.
Yes.
My point is, even for the Clinton Foundation, I found out that $10 million came out of Moroccan government. Yeah.
Wow.
Why the heck will Morocco, that is not a rich country, will be giving $10 million to the Clinton Foundations?
Morocco needs that for its people.
Oh, now it's getting bad there for the unemployment and inflation and so forth. But again, makes you just wonder. The point of all this is that the American people end up being hurt.
Oh, absolutely.
We're paying so much in taxes to the point that is not even being used accordingly.
Well, and I think it's very interesting because there was a hearing that literally just ended.
Just ended.
It just
yeah.
ended.
Yeah,
I
you were
watched all of
listening
it.
to
Oh
it
my
the
gosh.
entire time. 4-hour hearing.
Yes.
4 hours.
So it just ended. So would you guys like to hear?
Yeah, I like a clip or so.
So because I listened to the entire thing, which was so cringy. It was so cringy. Basically, the Republicans were like, hey, so there's all these things in here that, that are bad and that we would not have wanted. And then the Democrats come back and they don't address any of that, right? They don't address any of the stuff.
Of course.
They don't just a single thing. They're not like, well, okay, so guys, we admit that some of this really wasn't that great.
Yeah.
They're like, food for the hungry. Like, obviously take care of the poor. But, the United States was one of 2 countries in the entire world that voted that food was not a basic human right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's disgusting and despicable, United States. Okay. But it's not even a human right here. Not even everyone here is fed. So I think that's like a really disingenuous point. And I'm not Republican or Democrat. So that is not what I am, is a logical thinker who can say, hey, there are some parts of USAID that were good and some parts that were bad. But the bad parts are so bad that you really do, like, an overhaul seems like the most logical thing to do. So let's take a listen. Like I said, this just started, and we'll talk a little bit more about it after you guys listen to a little piece of it.
Representative Titus. Chair now recognizes Representative Davidson.
I thank the chairman, and look, I appreciate this hearing. It's certainly timely. When we talk about woke and weaponized government, it's easy to get desensitized to the long list of frivolous, frankly, pretty radical programs that are being exposed. Stuff like $1.5 million for DEI in Serbia, $47,000 for transgender operas in Colombia, $2 million. The former ambassador to Guatemala talked to me about this, $2 million for transgender surgeries in conservative country like Guatemala. It's a long list. I mean, USAID funded scholarships for people who became terrorists like Anwar al-Awlaki. We've sent, under the guise of USAID, we sent money to UNRWA, which returned funds directly to Hamas. In blatant violation of U.S. law, the Helms Amendment, PEPFAR has funded abortions and killed babies. What is happening in Africa is just the tip of the pro-abortion iceberg that the Biden administration weaponized aid agencies into. It also happens to be against the law that Congress has passed. So USAID funded independent media, so-called, in Hungary, but it was actually trying to run a color revolution playbook to overturn the government, very popular government of Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who's a NATO ally. So let's be clear, this cultural revolution playbook hasn't just been weaponized against allies in foreign countries. It's been brought home and weaponized against our own citizens right here. If you had unapproved opinions of COVID vaccines or origins of COVID, or maybe the Hunter Biden laptop story, there's almost certainly a puppet NGO working overtime on taxpayer dollars, which contradicts the word NGO in the first place, to shut down or deplatform speech in America. That's a clear violation of the First Amendment. So, look, our staff has heard every day from terrible stories about the abuse of our government in conflict with our own national interest in places like Uganda, where if they don't embrace aborting babies, they will be retaliated against and have aid taken away from them. I mean, coercive activities. So thank goodness President Trump has brought us back into the Geneva Consensus.
Okay. That's plenty. And like I said, I don't necessarily agree with, all of this being bad or, whatever it is. I don't have an agenda in that way. But all of those things, when you think of USAID, if you are an American, for example, and you hear the word, USAID, that's not what you think that money is going towards. You think that money is going towards, people, and some of it does, right? it has appeared to be a very small percentage. So what I've heard is that basically, only $1 out of $10 that is spent through USAID is actually put towards the use that most people would think it would be, right? So feeding people who really desperately need food, or there's a natural disaster and this is the care for those people, or the medical care for those people that need it. So that's the figure that I've heard, is only $1 in $10 actually ends up going to that purpose. The rest is some level of bureaucracy.
Yeah, and that's where the money gets funneled. I mean, you think about members of Congress. You think, I'll give you guys 3 examples. Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell, which, by the way, I have why are they still in Congress? This is what I don't get. The guy, like, he's just like moving on a wheel. Yeah, they're still in Congress. Their network, between him, Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, and what's her name? Elizabeth Warren. She made about $200,000. The other 2 makes about $180,000 each. Yeah. But you know what their net worth is? Mitch McConnell is about 212 million. Elizabeth Warren is about 210. And
but she wants to take away your crypto, guys.
Oh yeah.
You shouldn't have that crypto.
Yeah. And Chuck Schumer is about 175 million. So I think, for me personally, and I speak for myself, part of this problem of the USAID starts with Congress. If you put a term limit on those members of Congress, if you put restrictions, for example, members of Congress should not be allowed to trade in stocks.
Oh, absolutely.
End of story.
Absolutely. That alone would change the type of person that was part of Congress.
And this is where the problem we have, because the institution is corrupted. When I say institution, like Congress, even Supreme Court is corrupted. So now we are looking and we are finding out information coming out of USAID. Just embrace yourself for when an audit, if ever, is conducted regarding the Pentagon. We don't even.
I think that one's going to be last on the list.
Well, the thing is, remember, like I mentioned, Elon Musk is being number 1 defense contractor because of the satellites and all. Elon Musk has its own agenda. Beside the point.
So I was going to say, where does he get his budget from? Because
no, he does say it. He does say that it comes from.
Right. I know, exactly. I know where it comes from.
But what he's doing that is not disclosing, like to me, what's concerned is the release of the spy satellites. That's gonna, you releasing spy satellites under the auspice of, I'm just launching this Starlink to help people around the world, for health workers around the world to be connected, whatever. That's all in good.
Yeah.
But you are doing the other side.
Of course.
And that's to me where
I agree. I'm so, to be clear, I don't think Elon Musk or DOGE. Which is also really entertaining. I don't think he's like an angel, right? I don't think he's like an angel sent from heaven to fix all of our problems. What I will say is it's always a double-edged sword. So I do feel like, exactly like you were saying, so as the Starlink satellites get sent up, nobody's talking about that. Everyone's talking about USAID and FEMA. So there's always a distraction going on, and there's always a real story going on. So I don't see that that's like wildly different in this administration. However, I will say this, USAID has needed to be overhauled for a long time. Maybe longer than I've known that this existed. Okay. But they are going after. So fundamentally, Donald Trump understood this. Americans don't trust the healthcare system. So that's why we have RFK Jr., right? Americans don't trust the government, which is why, because even with FEMA, we'll talk about FEMA in a second, right? Because there's a big scandal coming out about FEMA. During the natural disasters that have happened here in the United States, we have the Los Angeles fires that were very recent. We have Maui. That if you still see the pictures of it, it's nothing. I was just absolutely nothing.
North Carolina.
And then we have North Carolina. And so we have all of these reports basically that are coming out that are saying, FEMA FEMA basically not only didn't do their job, they're giving people an absolute pittance, right? Like I think for Maui, it was like $700 or something. You know, and then so there's this very, very widespread information that there's corruption here. And so, you know, the Biden administration treated people like they were stupid. And quite frankly, like I said, I'm not Republican or Democrat, but I will say the Democrats have treated people like they were stupid. Like when the American people saw that the people in Hawaii were only getting $700, but that and
billions were sent to Ukraine.
Billions were sent to Ukraine. And then, you know, and I'm not, I believe for immigration, I believe that there is absolutely a right way for immigration. The way that immigration is happening right now, I do not think benefits the immigrants, and I do not think it benefits the American people.
Taxpayers.
Because looking at basically the homeless shelters and encampments that these immigrants are in, this is not a good quality of life with no real prospect for jobs and no infrastructure here to take care of them. That's a tough life. That's a bad life. So and
yet part of USAID budget was sent to cities like New York, like San Francisco, to house the illegals and so forth.
That's a lot of what FEMA is doing.
So where that money come from? That's our tax dollars.
Yes, that is where that money comes from. So we'll dive into FEMA in a minute, but yes.
Can you show that chart that has
which one? Yes, I can.
You guys need to see this chart. Elizabeth digs into all this here.
Are you talking about the
USAID? What the uncovered recently?
Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff, but I will share this one specific. I think David, this is the one you're talking about. I'll share this one specifically because it comes from. Is this the one you're talking about?
No, the one that has all the.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll dive into that in a second. Well, I could do that now if you want.
No, we go with that.
Okay, so we're gonna dive into first this document because it comes from the White House. Like this directly comes, it's from whitehouse.gov. And it's from 10 days ago. But David, can you see, here are a few examples of waste and abuse. Now, granted, these are small, and I don't actually feel like these are some of the worst. I think the worst are the news organizations and the media content. To me, that's the worst. 1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and communities. What on earth is that? $70,000 for production of a DEI musical in Ireland. Okay, this one is interesting. 2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. What?
I think if I am to think about this one, somebody is trying to allure the Vietnamese government not to go with China, because this is what, if we are to think, you know what I will, if I am to dig, hypothetically, if I were to investigate this, I will investigate the date when this was issued, this loan. And if it was, I would not be surprised that it was right after the visit of Trump, of Biden to Vietnam when he was in G20.
Yes.
That's just my guess.
So I'm not going to go through the rest of this. You guys
got the idea. You got the idea.
Yeah, you get the idea. You get the idea that basically
But you brought up a good point regarding the media.
Yes.
And this is where the masses are so ill-informed.
Okay, I'm going to share this tab instead. It's from WikiLeaks. I'm just going to read the first part of this because I don't, we just had the hearing. The hearing was on YouTube. Like, I don't know what all is like okay with YouTube to talk about this. But David, do you want me to read this?
Sure. Let's do that first paragraph.
This is from WikiLeaks. So, take it however you feel about WikiLeaks. USAID has pushed nearly $500 million through a secretive U.S. government-financed NGO, Internews Network, IN, which has worked with, in quotes, 4,291 media outlets, producing in 1 year 4,799 hours of broadcast, reaching up to, this is what they say, 778 million people. So almost a billion people. And training, whatever that means, over 9,000 journalists. And this is from 2023.
Wow.
IN has also supported social media censorship initiatives. It's WikiLeaks. I am inclined to believe WikiLeaks, but it is WikiLeaks. This came from
but that exists within the U.S. government.
Mhm.
I was in one of those situations when I was aware I was in a foreign country. I just won't disclose the country.
Mhm.
I'm still bound by the law.
Of
You
course,
guys
of
understand.
course.
But in one of the agenda in that country was pertaining to the media, and the money was allocated for that. And I was aware of it. I wasn't part of it, but I was aware of it, because once you go, you travel, and you are part of what's going on at the embassy and all that stuff. So anyway, it was enough money was allocated for that purpose, and for one purpose only. And that purpose is to manipulate the local into believing. So same thing happens for us here in the US.
Right.
Look at the media outlets. No exception. Fox or CNN or BBC or NBC, I'm sorry, or CBS. They're all the same.
Mhm.
Two faces of the same coin. The same apply to the political parties. Democrats and Republicans are the same. Don't ever get fooled. Because our system, that's what I'm saying. This is nothing but a tip of the iceberg.
Oh, I'm sure that's true.
Till the system is fixed from within. We're talking about put the term limits on Congress. Get rid of those Supreme Court judges that sit there for life. Why?
It was really interesting listening to the opposing side arguments during this hearing, because basically, so there were 3 witnesses, and so let me pull up their names and who they were. So the witnesses were Ted Yoho, former U.S. Representative, Florida's 3rd Congressional District, Max Primorak, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, and Andrew Natsios, former Administrator, U.S. Agency for International Development. So it was interesting, and he's like a little bit older, so he did not the things that are in place right now, he did not put in place.
He wasn't.
So it was interesting because basically the witnesses, and this is summarizing over hours of this. But basically they said, the reality is that a lot of these programs really should not have existed. Some programs should exist. There are some very good programs, and some of them really should not have. And that was basically what the witnesses said. But the opposition side was really unwilling to look at this evidence. And I think that is going to be the opposition side's downfall, because people are paying attention. And I am actually very happy. Like I said, not that I think Elon Musk is like an angel sent from heaven or anything.
No.
But I am very grateful that some of this corruption is starting to come to light, because we all knew it was there. But it was brushed away using the term conspiracy theory. Like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Now the conspiracies are coming true.
But here is the key question: is what's need to be done now that we know? What's going to happen? So that's to me what I say, investigate, issue the refund, and put those people.
Well, so a couple of things have been done. So let's talk about FEMA for a second. So the reason that FEMA is out, and the reason that this matters is because this is all financially driven. This is all money. And it's how the United States. So let me, David, if I can, share this one X post from the president of El Salvador. I do not respect very many politicians in the world. It's like almost none.
You're entitled to your opinion.
But I respect him.
This guy?
President Bukele.
Why is that?
Well, so for a couple of reasons. The first of all, he has not been shy about being brutally honest, not just about the US, but about the IMF. He took El Salvador from a very challenged country to a much, much better place. One of those things that he did was he bought Bitcoin. And now that Bitcoin's worth a lot, but instead of taking IMF loans, and in fact, directly saying that he was not going to play into the IMF loans, he wanted to do Bitcoin instead. He got Bitcoin and has put his country in a much better place than it was because of it, without being beholden
to
the IMF,
or
to the
US,
United States. So I mean, he really took an amazing stand, and so he's
that's worthy cause. That's worthy
Absolutely.
cause to respect the guy like that.
So I respect him. There's, like I said, not very many. I don't respect very many politicians, but him I do respect. So he says most governments don't want USAID funds flowing into their countries because they understand where much of that money actually ends up. While marketed as support for development, democracy, and human rights, the majority of these funds are funneled into opposition groups, NGOs, which we've heard a bunch of times now, with political agendas and destabilizing movements. At best, and here's this number again, at best, maybe 10% of the money reaches real projects that help people in need. There are such cases. So those cases are happening. But the rest is used to fuel dissent, finance protests, and undermine administrations that refuse to align with the globalist agenda. Cutting this so-called aid isn't just beneficial for the United States, it's also a big win for the rest of the world. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
It is indeed. I mean, you got like this is why, like I tell my my viewers on the other channel, I always talk about, you guys need to understand the big picture. So, and the big picture is why the collective West does not want to see regions like or continent or locations, whatever you want to use, like Africa, for example, like Latin America, Southeast Asia, develop economically. This is where you see in this push against China, because China is providing that incentive, economic one, that will help countries move up the ladder. This is where part of the problem that we do not, because we don't offer similar outcome that what other countries are offering, is a fact. And what you just shared with us here, the reflection of that president, is exactly the truth. This is why Africa is where it is, despite the massive natural resources they have. This is why Central Asia is locked into this massive poverty. There is poverty in it. But because we don't want it. This is why Middle East is always in turmoil, West Asia that is. It's because we want that stuff to stay that way. Because we never want them to develop economically.
Well, and I think fundamentally Americans, it's gotten so bad here for Americans that Americans are starting to wake up and say, oh, well, why is this happening? And the rest of the world, it's not the rest of the world, because the Western world has been fed a lot of the same narrative, the traditional American narrative, right? So a lot of the Western world's been fed that, but the parts of the world that have not been fed that, understand this other thing. They understand this other story. You know, the countries that have been demolished because they couldn't pay their IMF loans, right? Like, they know a different truth. And I think it's important that truth is now a truth that's coming out. And now we have official government documents, right? We have the White House that's basically coming out and saying, hey, you know, all of you who realize that there's corruption, because it's impossible to not at this point. I don't care what party you're part of. I don't care what generation you're part of. It's impossible at this point to not see that level of corruption and lies. And in a sense, I thank the Joe Biden administration for that, because his withdrawal from the presidential race was one of the biggest indications of lies coming straight out of the White House, so bad that the Democrats couldn't even hide it. Like, nobody could hide it anymore. It was that bad. So in a sense, I thank them, because they pushed it so far that now all of a sudden a lot of people don't trust what they're getting.
Well, same thing. While I'm thinking about it, like, for example, I mentioned Africa, Latin America, even Europe. Even Europe now becoming to this reality that now they're going to be dealing with Trump regarding what lies ahead. And by the way, guys, remember, join me tomorrow if you get a chance. We'll be talking about Trump versus Europe. So here's a link in the chat box. I'll put it for you there, guys. And you can check it out tomorrow.
I don't really think Trump needs to take on Europe.
But here's the thing is that all of a sudden it shows you the weakness of what the Europeans are going to do. What are they going to do?
No,
You know,
nothing.
when he's telling them directly that
Yeah.
your survival depends on America.
Well, at
Yeah.
least he's being honest.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I don't know. That's not a
but
good
at the
thing,
same time,
but-
Europeans are now are holding the end of the stick by
Yeah.
paying massive electric bills, electricity, and so forth,
Right.
energy bills, and
Right.
the economic conditions in Europe. I mean, look at the streets in London.
I've
Look-
not been to London recently, so I
Well,
don't know.
ask people who live there
Yeah.
about the homeless people that exist.
Oh,
Ask
absolutely.
people in Germany. Ask people in France, in Madrid, in Barcelona, in Portugal, that is. Or even I will go as far as Australia.
Mhm.
Did you know now 3 out of 7, the last stats that I read, 3 out of 7 falling into poverty.
Oh,
And that was
that's
back in
awful.
2023.
Oh, that's awful.
Can you imagine what it is today? Australia.
That's awful.
We used to think Australia was like, you know,
Yeah.
I used to, when I was in my late teens, I was thinking about moving to Australia,
Yeah.
far away.
Wow.
So, but
No, that's
you-
awful. That's
yeah.
awful. I didn't realize it was that bad.
But for Europe,
Mhm.
ask anybody
Yeah.
who lives in England. As a matter of fact, the demonstrations that's going on in England are not being reported on.
Mhm.
There is massive demonstrations that's going on.
Yeah.
So my point in all this, that yeah, we are all doing this, whatever, but because we also do not want certain entities or
Mhm.
countries to move up the ladder economically. And that's exactly what we did with Europe. We never want Europe to move up the ladder economically because they were getting a cheap energy from Russia, and we
Mhm.
didn't like that.
Yeah.
And this is where Trump now is going to be playing. It's the same arguments I just found out this morning, which is disturbing.
Mm.
And I'm going to share it.
Yeah.
I just found out the deal as to why Mr. Trump now is pushing to take over Gaza. You know what's behind it?
No.
Do you want to know?
Well, can you say it on this channel and our
Yeah.
video not get
What the-
taken down?
No, it shouldn't.
Okay.
Rothschild family.
Yes.
They're
Well.
behind it.
Yeah. In case you guys don't know,
You don't
there's
know-
a
you don't
handful
know.
of families
You need to
that
check.
control everything.
That's what it turns
So
out to be.
fun.
That's what it turns out to be.
Yeah.
There was a deal that was made behind the scenes.
Well,
between
okay.
Rothschilds
So
and-
I would like to talk about this on Rumble maybe a little bit more, but there's a trail there. Nothing is an accident. There's
Yeah.
a trail.
Well, let's do it next week. You guys want us to do one on a Rumble next week? Just please answer yes
Oh,
or no
yeah, sure.
on the chat box. I'm gonna take a look.
This is
at it.
nothing new. We're not like breaking
Yeah, it's nothing
anything
new,
crazy.
but,
Plenty
yeah.
of other people have like connected the dots before us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, Amanda saying yes. Karakulak saying yes.
Oh, wow.
M. White saying yes. Rumpels
Okay.
one saying yes. Sang Tan saying yes. Yeah, then that's it.
Okay.
Chris Age saying yes. Done deal, guys. If you will be kind, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
she's
I'm
the
sure I find
producer.
it.
She deals with all the tech side. If you will be kind, we set it
Yeah,
up for next week. We'll
absolutely.
do it. Yeah.
And let me
Yeah.
share our
I'll
our Rumble link.
Now that I know that one,
Okay.
but yeah,
Try and do
why
this.
not?
Yeah,
And
we will.
I think here is where we come in.
Mhm.
You know, as small as we are, a channel like this,
Yeah.
you know, it's at least we're presenting information that is unfiltered.
Mhm.
You know, and we check the information, by the way, before we share it with you, because it's our credibility in life.
Mhm.
So we're not gonna go hype stuff. So because we want to have too many views, whatever. I don't believe in that. I refuse to do
I
that.
don't either. And David, recently a couple of people have come to me and said, well, you guys aren't controversial enough. You guys aren't like attacking, each other, or you're not, taking extreme positions. And I was like, I don't care if we have fewer
Yeah,
viewers.
no,
I don't care.
no.
What I care about is doing the right thing. And the right thing is making sure that some level heads with some logic come through.
Yeah.
And we talk about the facts the way that, as far as we can tell, right? We're not in those rooms. I wasn't with Elon Musk, going through the files, right?
Yeah.
So as best as we can tell, have genuine conversations about what needs to happen with our country.
Yeah.
And what needs to happen with the world, because together we get to decide that. It's not just the elites at the top that get to decide that. It's our world too. We live here
we
too.
live here.
And all of us get to decide how this world goes. And if we think it's just an us versus them, or that everything has to be inflamed all the time, no, you take that information and you decide like, hey, you know what? I really don't want USAID to fund all of these things. I really do want America to take care of Americans. And there was a very interesting article that I read that I can't find anymore. And I wonder why that is, but I can't find this anymore. But it was an article that basically talked about how the US is now starting to opt out of its own hegemony. That the pullout of USAID actually was the US saying, you know what, rest of the world, you guys kind of have to start taking care of your own stuff. We are going to influence you less. Do I believe that?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it is interesting that because USAID is one of the organizations that has influenced, like many people have accused it of, of influencing foreign governments, using media to influence foreign peoples. If the US did less of that, that probably would be a good thing. Don't you think?
Well, yeah, for sure. And this is why you start to, just to go back to our topic about USAID and so forth, you start to realize why the likes of Canada, to me, I found it very, 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 very disturbing that Canada, the government now is coming saying, oh, it's a technical difficulties brought down foreign aid database. I don't think so.
They should have lied and said it was a hacker or something.
I don't think that was the whole idea of why all of a sudden dictator Trudeau is saying, oh, no, it was a technical. No, there's something going on there. And Canadian, they deserve to know the truth as well. We have viewers from Canada that are watching us regularly here, and you guys deserve to know the truth. It's no different than us Americans here, an average citizen. I always worry about the average citizen here.
I worry about us.
Really, I
I guess we're the average citizen.
Well, to me, in a sense, what I meant by that, maybe I didn't articulate it clearly enough. What I meant by intellectually.
Oh,
that they do not know. Yeah, they might not have certain education level, whatever, for them to process the information. And when I go out and see and I'll talk to people,
I know.
That's what concerns me the most.
It concerns me too, and quite frankly, so there's there are a couple of pop psychology terms that have spiraled around the ether recently, but it takes a lot of courage to acknowledge that something is wrong. And human behavior is to rationalize something, right? Even look at your own life. How many times have you had somebody in your life that was doing bad behavior, right? Somebody who really should not be part of your life, or whatever it is, but you rationalize their behavior. Oh, they're just having a bad day. Oh, it's just this. Oh, it's just this. So it actually takes a lot of courage to acknowledge that something is wrong, because once you acknowledge something is wrong, your mind knows you have to do something about it. Whether you do something about it or not, you now internally know you have to. And most people are exhausted. People are burnt out. They're wiped out. It's so in movies, did you notice how there's an up, it's something really crazy happens and then it comes back down. And then it's something crazy happens and it's back down. So there's this wave because people can't stay up all the time. They burn out. And so that's why there's they give people in music is this way too, right? So there's the chorus that's rah, and then there's the lyrics that are okay, mellower. It's because human beings can't stay up all the time.
You guys now got a tip into how production
human
and
behavior.
Also the production of the movie.
The thing is, people who make media understand human beings better than anybody else.
Yeah, but they're also assisted by psychologists or some behaviorists
absolutely,
or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even story format is perfected through human psychology. Okay. Yeah. So people who do media know psychology better probably than anybody else. Okay. Yeah. Especially mass psychology. But one thing that's happened in the United States is because we're in a decline, everyone is up all the time.
Yeah.
Everyone is tired. Everyone is burnt out. Everyone is sick. Chronic illness is through the freaking roof.
Yeah.
And yes, we have a whole bunch of reasons for that,
Mhm.
but chronic stress is a really big one. And so you have a chronically stressed population that now knows something is wrong and now they have to do something about it. That seems overwhelming. So a lot of people cannot personally deal with that. Like they don't know what to do with it, because nothing that's coming out about FEMA or USAID or whatever is good. All of it's terrible. And so I think we're in for a really interesting next couple of years.
I want to say thank you to Army with Harmony.
Hey,
Yeah, because
also Canadian.
Yeah, because he did gift a membership to someone. So I want to say thank you, but I also want to read his question quickly here. Does it appear that America is attempting to expand and isolate?
I have my own opinion about that. Go ahead, David.
Fair enough. You go, ladies first.
So wait, put that back up. So expand and isolate.
And isolate. I just want to show, first of all, that he gifted. So I want to say thank you.
I don't know how people maybe go and try, and whoever gets there first gets this gift.
I don't know how.
But thank you for doing.
Thank you, Army with Harmony.
So
let me put it up again.
Expand and isolate. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So what I think is that the United States has been a baddie around the world for most people, right? So I saw a YouTube, and it was like, are we the bad guys? It's like a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And I was like, for the rest of the world, the United States has been a bad guy. And the only people who don't know that are Americans.
Not this one.
That's okay. I know what the question is.
Yeah.
So what I think is happening right now is the United States fundamentally knows that it's in decline. Donald Trump knows it's in decline. His administration knows it's in decline. China and Xi Jinping know it's in decline. Europe knows it's in decline.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. Okay. This is an open secret that I think, my personal opinion, is everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it. So what do you do as a country that's in decline? You do the best that you can to maintain some kind of global player status.
Yeah.
Our currency was once held by 80%. There was the reserve currency by 80%, and now it's something like 40.
Mm-hmm.
So is it still a global player? Absolutely, yes. But does the US lose an enormous amount of power if it is no longer the reserve currency?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. And so I think the US right now is trying to regain some influence, because quite frankly, all it's done for the last decade or so is drop like a sinking stone.
Yeah.
So I think Donald Trump's administration is trying to basically prop us back up. Do I agree with how he's doing it? No, but I do think that that's what's happening.
Indeed. Well, that's where the concerns now, and why we decided to address this particular topic, and just to shed light on at least for people around the world, but mainly for those in the US here, maybe our neighbors to the north, to have an understanding at least because here's the thing, this USA Aid corruption thing, mark my word, we're going to find out soon that is tied to other countries.
Oh, I'm sure. It's for sure.
And if I am to guess right away as to why Canada went ahead and shut down the database, it's because of that. Canada's been already sending ammo through the US to Israel regarding the Gaza. So
yes, which we can't really talk about here. We're going to do it on Rumble.
Rumble. We'll do that. So see, Rumble. To me, I thought I live in a free country. I'm just dreaming.
Well, so I remember when I was a little kid on the playground, everybody, and I went to a French school, but everybody, but it was here in the United States, but it was a French immersion school. And everybody on the playground was like, well, this is a free country. It's a free country. I have not heard anyone say that in a really long time. Because I don't think people think that anymore. Yeah.
Well, I want just to remind you guys, remember tomorrow to join me for my conversation regarding Trump versus Europe. Here's the link once again in the chat box on geopolitical trends, right?
Geopolitical trends. That is what it's called.
And we're going to be having some guests soon, and we're going to be recording some interviews and so forth. So, because we want to move this into the direction of understanding the economic aspects, the monetary aspects for you, the basic understanding for you to understand where things are. And that was one of the reasons why we kind of redirected the trajectory of this channel here. So
yeah,
that's so, and we have some great guests. I got a list of some that will be willing to share their knowledge with us.
yes. And guys, if you have a favorite economist, put them in the chat and reach out to them and tell them about us too.
As a matter of fact, guys, you're gonna be the first person you're gonna be hearing from is none other than Professor Yan Liang. You all know. You'll be hearing from her soon. So
we're about to interview her in like 10 minutes.
in
It's
10
recorded,
minutes.
so it's not going to be.
So because we're gonna the schedule and all that stuff. So we'll set up the one for Ramble next week, and Elizabeth and I will coordinate the date. It doesn't have to be on Thursday. We can do it before. Just we'll do one. We'll do it for if the community asks for it. That's what we're gonna do.
If you guys want it.
So we'll go and address whatever needs to be addressed, and there is a lot to be addressed anyway.
Yeah.
Then we'll just go from there.
Okay, somebody just said Richard Wolff. We have tried to get him on the show,
so
guys.
many times.
So if you want him on the show, tell him we're not changing the name yet. So we're still Geopolitics and Conflict until we get Richard Wolff, because I really like him and I'd really like him on the show. So if you guys can message Richard Wolff and say Elizabeth and David on a Geopolitics and Conflict show would love to have you on, please do that. We have reached out to him and I really want him on the show, guys.
Yeah, so it's his decision after all. So
It
anyway,
is.
guys, well, we hope you enjoyed listening to this. We can at least open up your mind in understanding what's going on. Of course, you're going to have to think in terms of how this is impacted, because your tax dollars is what's been funding. I would say go ahead and start investigating, like the Clinton Foundation, the other stuff that needs to be done. So it's the right thing to do.
One step at a time.
Yeah, and we issue the refund. So
yes,
that's the way it is. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Till next time. Bye.